to the Prerana Business Meet 2020, an integral part of Avartan, NITIE's annual management festival, which encompasses business, culture, and sport. The Prerana Business Meet has traditionally brought together some of India's distinguished leaders to discuss and share their views on the contemporary issues and opinions on the ongoing problems in the industry. This year, we have lined up some of India's leading CEOs to enlighten us on the central theme building self reliant India, an invaluable part of the global economy. The National Institute of Industrial Engineering was established in the year 1963 under the aegis of Government of India and the United Nations International Labour Organization. The endeavor was to create a center of excellence to generate innovative solutions to the ongoing conundrums of the aggressively expanding industrial order and to create the next generation of techno managers. Avartan, the annual management festival of NITIE Mumbai, has been the epitome of establishing industrial relations since 1995. In its 2 decades of fostering industrial relations, Avartan presents a unique panorama of academic and corporate arenas to foster innovation through management practices and concepts. I now request Professor Ms. K. Ranjini, the moderator of the session, to please welcome our esteemed guest of honor, Mr. Suhail Sameer, guest Group President, BharatPe, to NITIE Mumbai, and carry the session forward. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Asmita, and a very warm welcome to all, and a special welcome to our guest of the day, Mr. Suhail. So it's an honor and a privilege to have you here amidst us in NITIE, and true to the theme of this event, we have a very disruptive industry. We have a very disruptive, kind of, and true to, being disruptive, we also have very young people who are heralding the change and bringing in all of this vision of Atmanirbhar, vision of a digital India through so many beautiful initiatives. So it was very inspiring personally for me to read about BharatPe also. And I'm very happy to share with you that in NITIE, we do a lot of work in the digital area, and personally it's my special area of interest. Fintech is my personal area of interest. I believe that a day will come when India will only transact through cards and through mobile phones. And in fact, I tell my students in class that 20 years back, I used to tell students that you pass journal entries, debit and credit and all. So people don't know what a ledger looks like. Though we call it a ledger, today they only know the software. They only know accounting software. So I'm hoping that 20 years hence, like this, professors will have to explain what is cash. Students may not know what really cash is and how people transacted using cash. So it's an honor, it's a privilege. Let me make a very formal welcome. Mr. Sameer is a dynamic person, extensive experience across FMCG, energy, financial services. He graduated from IIM Lucknow. He joined McKinsey Co, leading McKinsey's clean tech and power practice. Post that, he served as a president at RP Sanjiv Goenka Group, where he was pivotal in launching and scaling the FMCG business, while also setting up the consumer VC fund. Mr. Suhail has been an active member of the CII National Committee on FMCG, working towards facilitating an environment for the rapid growth of the sector. His vision is to make BharatPe a one-stop solution. So we really wish you well in this. And I also read that you are planning to triple your business. I mean, go straight there up to, some 300 million. So from your present 95 million. So it's wonderful to have this kind of ambition. It's wonderful to have this kind of energy amidst us. And we are very, very eager to listen to you. I mean, I'm personally going to have a lot of takeaways from today's talk. I'm also going to be extremely selfish. I'm warning all the panelists and the organizers. I'm going to ask my own questions also along with the students' questions. So I'm just giving a warning on that. And we look forward to having a highly engaging and informative session. Over to you, Mr. Suhail. Thank Thank you very much.
No, thanks for such a warm welcome. And thanks for being so kind for calling me young. No longer, unfortunately.
Young is relative.
Yeah, age is relative. Yes, absolutely. No, I think it's a very exciting time to be in India, first of all, and very pertinent theme of Atmanirbharta. And I think, in a way, financial services is an industry which is sort of at the forefront of that, right? So not necessarily what new age companies like us are doing, but even the traditional banks, our banking systems, by and large, are quite efficient and good, and that gives us actually a lot of even as I work with a lot of banks, we have like multiple partners, banking partners for transactions and for loans, and we work with some of those banks, and having worked with McKinsey in a global setup, I understand how our banking systems operate, and they're far beyond what a developed country banking system would be, right? So, and this is by and large all in-house built and India built. So it's anyway an industry which sort of we have a lot to look up to in terms of being Atmanirbhar, right? So I'm trying to keep my sort of address short so that we can spend a lot more time on questions. Because the industry is so wide that I can like literally spend a couple of hours just talking through the industry nuances, and I don't know what is really relevant for the audience. So I'll keep the address to like the way I see the industry having played out, and what are the disruptions which are sort of shaping the industry, and some of these disruptions are past, some of these disruptions are ongoing, and a couple of them I see as potential future opportunities, right? So I'm going to concentrate on that and then leave the floor to any questions which you may have. Right, so I think let me actually lead with first disruption actually we saw in the financial services industry is actually demonetization, right? So that paved actually a lot of the way which around UPI, around mobile-based payments, which we talk about today, and that was sort of the first act towards making cash relatively redundant in the economic scheme of things, and I think it is a few months post that demonetization event that actually BharatPe was launched. It's been a great journey for the business. I am new to the business, but I know the business right from the inception. I was the founders were very close friends of mine, and I'd been like in touch with them through their journey. I think BharatPe, and I'm sort of weaving in BharatPe's story because it is highly linked to what India is going through on the payment side. Otherwise, this is not around promoting BharatPe, but this is to talk about the industry. Around 2018 June is when we actually launched the BharatPe UPI-based payment solution for merchants. And we were actually the first people to launch this service as free, right? So we were the first people to say that transaction charge on UPI makes no sense. For the first 6 months, we were actually losing money because we were paying at the back end, but we were not charging anything to the merchants, right? So I think 4-5 months forward, I think government took a very bold and innovative, and I would believe in the right direction, step of abolishing all charges on UPI-based transactions, and that's when Beam sort of started becoming big, and we saw many fintech players who were offering solutions in the industry, whether in form of wallets, whether in form of payment acceptance through QRs, also had to follow in line and start offering UPI-based payment acceptance for free, right? So I think that's, to me, it's the probably the biggest success of India-based solutions ever. UPI is now going to Japan. IIM is doing a great job of taking it to Japan. We are in talks of with multiple other countries to take this solution there. This is the first in-house built solution, and BACI did a great job of getting this together. And I don't know if you've been following the news. This month was the first time where UPI crossed 2 billion transactions on a monthly basis, right? That's a great achievement. We are now talking UPI-based payments actually in terms of number of transactions more than credit card plus debit cards put together, right? So of course, credit card transactions tend to be high value. So therefore, this is not in terms of value, but in terms of just the sheer number of transactions, UPI has just sort of taken over credit card plus debit card, right? So I think that's a first major disruption, and at least I see for the next few years this trend likely to continue. There may be a few more UPI-like solutions which will come about, but the fact that there will be a meaningful way of merchants to accept payments for free is here to stay, right? So I think that's sort of the first big thing which we see happening. The second, I think, transaction charge, which the companies charge merchants, will continue to reduce, right? So we are not a developed nation. We are not US, where retailer margins are 30 to 35%. We operate in a country where our merchants make anywhere from 5% to 15%, depending on what they sell. And if you are just charging them 1 to 2% for just completing the transaction on a card or a UPI-like solution, A, that's a big load on them. B, that is counterintuitive to make cash redundant, right? So if you have to make cash redundant in the country, you have to make payment acceptance on digital means efficient, fast, convenient, and most importantly, cheap or free, right? So I do see over a period of time, all credit card and debit card transaction charges also becoming zero, right? Whether it will take 5 years, whether it will take 15 years, I think only time will tell. But we do see signs of that happening already. We now have the UPI, as we talked about, but even the government issued cards, RuPay network, government network, you can actually do a debit card transaction for free. And if you see how the debit card and the credit card transaction charges have been coming down over the years, you can sort of make a guess that this is all tending towards zero, right? So 5-7 years back, credit cards used to be, especially like, for example, an Amex type network used to be 5% transaction charge. Now, Amex is still the most expensive network, but it's now at 2 to 2.5%, right? So some of the more established banks like HDFC and ICICI do offer credit card transactions as low as 0.7%, right? So I think this is all tending towards making transaction charges on cards zero. And the day that happens actually is the day when we will not only see a UPI boom, but we will also see a credit card, debit card transaction sort of continue to skyrocket, right? So, and I think in that context, actually, BharatPe recently launched a credit card acceptance machine, which is actually no rental to the merchant. Merchant has an option of leaving the money with us for 15 days and actually get zero transaction charge, right? Because so we are trying to, in a way, do exactly what we did on UPI, make it free, make transactions for merchants fast, efficient, convenient, and free. And we are already seeing great sort of offtake on this machine, right? So, and again, this is sometimes industry needs an innovator to disrupt, because most of the credit card machines will tend to charge merchants monthly rentals. It's a very, I'm sorry, new to the industry, but for me, it was startling, right? Because, and the more I dug into this, I realized the genesis of this, right? So if you go 10 years back, mobile phones used to be 5,000-10,000 rupees, and a credit card acceptance machine used to be a 50,000 to 60,000 rupees, right? So it made sense actually to charge rental, because most of the merchants could not afford to pay like 50,000 rupees upfront. In today's day, actually most of the merchants are using phones which are like 20 to 30,000. They are not on iOS, but they are all using smartphones, Android phones, which cost 20 to 30,000 rupees. And actually the cost of a card acceptance machine is 5,000 rupees, right? So the world has completely tilted. Card machines used to be 50,000, now they are 5,000. guy used to buy a phone for 5,000, now he's buying a phone for 25,000 in cash or upfront. There is no reason actually to charge a rental, right? So a merchant can very easily afford to buy a card acceptance machine, right? So I think, and that's where someone new, someone like us comes in and looks at this de novo and say, why is this happening, right? So, and sort of breaks the monotony of the industry and by offering something new. And so far, what we've seen, I think most of the merchants, I haven't come across a merchant who said 5,000 rupees is too much to pay, because he knows he saves 500 rupees on monthly rent, right? So I think that's the second disruption as we go ahead in our India's journey towards the Atmanirbharta. We will see credit card, debit card acceptance charges continuing to reduce and sort of over a period of time come close to zero, right? So I think that to me is the second big theme. I'll talk about two more themes and then I will leave it to the audience. I think the third theme, which I see play out quite a lot these days, is a theme around micro lending. India has a huge demand for small ticket credit. Unfortunately, most of the banks today do not have the system to offer credit to people who need these small amounts, right? So take, and again, I'll take it to BharatPe context because that's the one I understand most. Think of us, our regular merchant, a Kirana store on the road. That guy is probably hardly filed income tax returns ever. Maybe he's filed, but his actually tax bracket is so low that most banks would sort of not give him credit. He will not have credit history, therefore his credit score will be even lower, and therefore banks will further shy away from actually giving him credit, right? So this is a vicious cycle that because you don't have income tax returns, your credit score is low. Given your credit score is low, you don't get a loan. Given you don't get a loan, you don't get a chance to repay it, and therefore you don't get a chance to improve your credit rating, right? So people like these will always find it difficult in the current context to get loans and to grow their businesses. And these guys need loans literally every month because as a typical retailer, you buy stock, you sell stock. To buy that stock, you need money, right? So, and most of the retailers I speak to say, sir, if we had credit, we would be actually able to increase our business by 20-30%, right? So and that's a problem. I think many, and BharatPe is not the only one, there are many people who are working in this space saying, is there a better way of underwriting these small merchants and give them access to credit so that they can grow their business? In the process, obviously companies like us will make some money, and that's where monetization for us will happen. And over a period of time, these merchants will become better and better. We will help them build their credit history because they would have taken loans from us and repaid us. And over a period of time, hopefully banks will offer them better interest rate loans, right? So I think that's sort of the thesis of microcredit. Now this is going to play across sector after sector, right? So we do a lot of microcredit for small merchants. I also know of companies which do such credits for blue collar job seekers in a B2B2C, like sort of working with the corporates which employ them, or even directly, right? So and this trend will continue to grow. I think what really sets microcredit apart is the ability of the lender to offer unsecured loans, right? So many of these merchants can actually still go to a bank and say, I'll pawn down my shop, I'll pawn down my house, can you then give me a loan? But that's not the right way to sort of offer them loan, right? So for example, on a BharatPe network, I know the merchant's transaction history on a daily basis, right? How much transaction he's doing on QR, how much money for him is flowing through me. Can I use that to actually offer him credit? Because I know how much recovery I can do on a monthly basis. And can I use the collection mechanism of the QR to allow him to pay back the money without having to sort of resort to a bank and pawn his assets or sort of provide his assets as collateral? and the effort of going to the bank, right? So as I said, these guys require credit on a monthly basis. If they have to go to a bank every month to take a loan and go through the long process of filing documents, it's probably 2 days of their effort every month, right? So I think again, BharatPe as an example is solved a lot of this for the retailers. As I speak, I on a monthly basis give around 100 crores of loans to small merchants through this route. And I'm sure for one BharatPe, there are another 10 startups which are actually doing the same and sort of providing credit where it is most needed, right? To the most underserved part of the society, guys who are actually earning their wages on literally a daily basis. Even a shop is in a way a daily wage business, right? So I think that's the third disruption I've seen, and I think some of these newer payment methods have enabled that. And a lot of these shopkeepers are now using credit a lot more aggressively than what they would have used, because there was no source of unsecured credit available to them. Most of them will try to get a loan from a bank, end up taking money from a corner shop money lender at exorbitant rates, and probably sort of providing their property as collateral, right? So I think that's the third thing, and I think this is to me very, very important. Doesn't seem as important on the surface, but India grows when sort of the large middle class of India grows, and this is exactly hitting that part of the society, and this is exactly enabling that part of the society to sort of grow. I think the last, and which is, and many people will try it. Some will become successful. Some will fail. I think I do envision a day where our banks, in the conventional sense, will become redundant, right? So, and it's not a bad thing. Every industry needs to go through disruption. Every industry needs better ways of sort of doing business. I think of it as why does a person use a bank? A person uses a bank to keep his money and earn some interest on it. Many startups, including BharatPe, offer the same facility to a merchant and say, you keep money with us or with our partner, and we will offer you interest rates, right? And many times interest rates which are 3x a typical saving bank, 2x a typical good quality FD. For example, many merchants who keep their money with our lending partners, we offer up to 12% rate of interest, right? So up to 12% secured rate of interest is sort of very difficult to get in today's age. In fact, I keep my money not in a bank, but in with one of my lending partners, right? So all the money which I want to keep secure. So I think you use bank to keep your money safe and earn some interest on it. A lot of the startups are providing that. You use banks to send money to people. Most startups, everything from a Paytm to a Google Pay to a BharatPe and many more, are offering you that. You can send your money to your friends. You can send money to your vendors. You can send money to people when you buy stuff. You use a bank to actually use a debit card or a credit card. Many of the startups, including Paytm, including us, are offering that. This is not a typical credit card, debit card. This is almost like a prepaid card where you can use all the money you have with us, and sort of it becomes a debit card. And if you have a loan from us, you can use that money and it sort of becomes a credit card, right? So you use money to keep banks to keep deposits. You have that option. You use banks to send money to people, you have that option. You use banks to get credit card, debit card, you have that option. You use banks to take loans, and all of us are actually doing that. You use banks to sort of buy insurance, etc. And most of us are offering that. You use banks to sort of do investments into stock market, into gold, into some of the other areas, and all of us are offering that. So I don't like, the way at least I think about BharatPe is I want to be one day the bank for my merchant. I want to be in a space where merchant can feel comfortable that he doesn't have to use his banking system at all, and he can do everything he would have done in a conventional banking system through the BharatPe app itself, which is obviously a lot more convenient than having to deal with the banking system. And the BharatPe is, of course, just one example. There are at least 10 companies I know which are sort of over a period of time going down the same route, right? So I think this much abused term in today's world, neobanking, is actually going to be a reality in the future. How much of the banking space will it disrupt? Will some of the banks actually evolve to become better digital lenders themselves and better digital players themselves? Actually, time will tell. But the net of this will be sort of all the consumers will benefit, right? Whether they will benefit from someone like a BharatPe becoming a neobank, or whether they will benefit from current banking system becoming a lot more efficient and digital friendly. I think we'll know in the next 5-10 years, but that sort of is the direction the industry is going, because everyone is realizing that it's not fair or it's not possible to make money on purely transactions. So you have to go beyond that and offer credit. You have to go beyond that and offer banking services. You have to go beyond that and offer opportunity to buy and sell stuff. You have to go beyond that and offer deposits, right? So a large part of the fintech startup community will, over a period of time, move towards that. And that's where the real tussle between a banking system and the startup world will sort of start in a way. So yeah, so that's about it. Sorry for being going on for a bit longer. Happy to take any questions and reactions from
you. Thank you for those remarks. Actually, you could have actually gone on. I mean, I was just hearing you with rapt attention. You made a statement about banks becoming redundant. I actually had a parallel thought about this. See, these banks, by definition, if you see, accepting deposits for the purpose of lending. So this is how RBI defines banking, accepting deposits for the purpose of lending. I am left to wonder, see, because I work a lot in the microfinance space, and I kind of relate to everything that you spoke about. I'll probably also highlight a few concerns a little later as we proceed. But I am always thinking that if banks are to first accept deposits and then from those deposits start lending, it's essentially a marketplace, right?
Yeah.
And today, when we have alternate marketplaces, why this obsession with the banking definition? Why stick to this banking? I'm in fact thinking that, for example, when you were discussing about how you have access to practically every digital footprint, a merchant transacts through you, so you know what is his business size, you know what is his repayment capability, you know what kind of transactions are happening. So I mean, maybe you're not allowed today to straight away increase his drawing power and directly collect the EMI from the proceeds. Maybe that you will have to route it through a bank. But I'm still wondering, is there some level of inefficiency that is now being built because we want to work around our definition of banking and probably our regulators' obsession with the banking system, and therefore rooting every reform around the banking system? So have you ever felt this?
I have felt it multiple times, but I don't think this is completely wrong, right? So you are right in many ways that the conventional definition of banking is you take deposits and you lend that out, and you offer ancillary services, and therefore that becomes the banking system. Banks make money depending on what rate they lend out at and what rate they accept deposits, right? So that's a simple business model, and that's exactly my business model. I offer consumers the ability to keep deposits with me. I use those deposits to lend out to different set of merchants, and the difference between the two is the money I make, and I offer some ancillary services like the transactions, like the insurance, etc., etc. So in a way, I do operate like a bank without being called a bank, without having the permission to actually take deposits on my books. So I have to necessarily use a deposit taking NBFC to enable that. And I would benefit greatly if we were to relax the definition of what a banking system is. Having said that, banks and RBI is not sort of necessarily against this thinking. They need to be sure that this is in the best interest of the consumer, and that the technology is robust enough to prevent frauds, that startups are robust enough and liable enough and regulated enough to ensure they don't run away with consumers' money, right? So till the time, and this is a work in progress, right? So every day RBI allows something new, like UPI. We were allowed to sort of create our own network around it, and we handle lots of money for our merchants, because even though this goes through the banking system, but the money moves from, let's say you are paying at a Kirana store, money will go from your bank account to my account, and I will settle at the end of the day to the Kirana. So I'm actually handling cash. And that's sort of taken 2 years of proving to regulators that I have the technology which can sort of do settlements at a much better rate than most other institutions will do. In fact, better than most banks will do. And I'm sort of reliable in how I handle customers' money. I have systems to prevent fraud. I can actually see fraud transactions. I have the ability to sort of risk capability to sort of see where someone is swiping a credit card to, for example, do card to cash conversion, right? So as the system becomes more and more stronger, and as startups become bigger and have bigger balance sheets, have bigger ability to lend, I think I would hope that RBI is not against this, right? But I think I also don't want a knee-jerk reaction and going all the other way on saying whoever wants to lend and whoever wants to take deposit, please do so, because that's where the banking system fails, and that's where countries collapse, right? So I think you have to play a tightrope. I think everyone can argue whether RBI is moving too fast or too slow, but that's each one's opinion, right? So, and RBI is doing its best to sort of walk this tightrope thoughtfully. At least that's my opinion.
I think very, very comprehensively put. I don't think I could have found a better person to probably ask this question, because somebody who's coming up with regulations and you have a very balanced view. Because many of the people who I know are my acquaintances, they have very radical views on this subject.
It's easy to, in a good time, it is very easy, and you feel this is all constraining. I think this all becomes relevant when you go through a global recession, when you go through a COVID type scenario. That's where if the system is not robust enough, you sort of struggle.
And there's a complete breakdown.
Yeah.
So I have, as predicted, I have a million questions from which I will select a few. And I think there are going to be more popping up on the chat box, because this particular topic of fintech and the digital disruptions, it's one is that it's held everybody's attention. That is one thing. But second is that it's very rightly seen, like you were saying, 207 crore transactions. It's not a small thing. I think the biggest impact, even post demonetization, it was intended, but now unintended. The post-COVID world, I think one of the biggest impacts has been felt on this. People have felt it like never before. So the curiosity on this is very high. I can see, for example, some questions, very well-researched questions. They've gone into your website, they've seen a couple of things, and then they've put in some questions. So let me not be selfish and ask my questions, but let me just pass on the students' questions to you. So I have a question here. This is about the voice feature that you have incorporated, called as Paisa Bolega. Button to help shopkeepers to hear the instant transaction confirmation. So what other strategic innovations can we expect from BharatPe?
No, this is a very simple feature. I know some companies which used to actually have similar products out there, and they used to charge merchants 1,200 rupees for this. And then they used to charge a monthly rental of 100 rupees. you have a mobile phone. Mobile phone can do everything. It has a speaker. Why do you need a separate? And we've done this for free. We don't charge merchants for this. Our aim is to actually make merchants' life simpler and really make money on stuff like lending, where merchant doesn't mind paying, right? So we are actually working on tons of areas, right? So we've just enabled gold sales on our platform, so that you can buy digital gold at home. A lot of merchants, actually all of India, loves gold, either as a sort of consumption for usage, but also for investments, right? So and why buy real gold and like sell it and lose making charges, etc.? You can just, when you can buy a digital gold. That's something we've just enabled recently. We are working on enabling different forms of credit as we speak. Today we offer a very plain vanilla unsecured lending product. Unsecured lending product works for a lot of guys because they don't have access to credit and they don't have collaterals to sort of give in place of that. But we are sort of figuring out a way where we can offer lower rate of credit by taking by moving our portfolio from completely unsecured to partly secured, partly unsecured. So for example, gold loans. And that's where we said, let's launch gold sales. People buy digital gold on our platform and lend, sort of give the same digital gold as collateral and take money with respect to that, right? So, and that's sort of the next product we are working on. We are working on a few products where our merchants can sort of deposit money in different forms. Today, we offer only one solution, which is basically the money, which is your money lying with us in our bank. You can keep it with us, or with our NBFC partner. You can keep it with us and earn interest. But we are sort of launching a series of products where, depending on tenure, depending on risk appetite, we can offer different rates of return to our merchants. So that's an area we really want to focus on, because we do have merchants which need money, but we also have merchants who are cash rich, right? And they don't know what to do with their money. Either it is, sometimes it's even actually lying in a current account which is earning zero interest, right? So so we want to ensure that our merchants actually make money on their money. So there is a lot of work happening on that front. I think there is also some work happening on ancillary services like insurance, because many of our merchants are not as well aware about insurance, right? So health, life, sabko samajh aata hai, and I think shop insurance, most of the people have now got it. But insurance against loss of business, like especially like in COVID time, there are many companies globally which offer those products. There are some companies which are increasingly starting to think about such products or launching such products in India. Can we take that to our merchant base? And we don't again want to make money there, because we know if our merchant's business is secure, he will continue to transact on our business, and someday we'll take a loan and we will make money there, right? So these are all for us to ensure that the merchant remains like earning, remains like can stop thinking about all these things, can and focus on his business. There are a couple of tech-based ideas which are on the product pipeline, but still work in progress, and probably I'll know in a few months. I think the large part of our effort right now is going in expanding our credit card acceptance machine. Like it's called BharatPe, and we want to do exactly the same thing which we did on QR-based transactions and make them free. We want to sort of push the industry in making card acceptance free, right? So our product is not purely free today. We charge no rentals, etc. So that all is free. But if the merchant sort of withdraws money in less than 15 days, then we do charge him something. But at least this is the first time when a merchant has an option of, if he is cash rich, he can leave the money with us for 15 days and actually get a 0% transaction fee, right? So we're doing a lot of tech work on that product to improve it, to reduce the cost, to reduce these 15 days. Can we bring it down to 10 days where a larger set of merchants can leave that money with us? Because a lot of these merchants work on very small cash surpluses. So 15 days can be high for some of them. We're also working on, in a way, a credit type facility on what we call a cash advance on your swipe transactions, right? So effectively, merchant's money will be with us, but he will also take a sort of a cash advance from us, which will enable him to continue his business, but also enable us to offset our costs, right? So there is a lot of work happening on the credit side. There is a lot of work happening on the deposit side. And then there are usual ideas around insurance and tech, which we are sort of building over the next 2-3 months.
Okay, so you basically want to increase your product suite so that one day we would not know whether you're a bank or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
and we will obviously do it in all the constraints of what the RBI puts and rightly puts. So we don't want to do anything which is touching the boundaries of like not approved
outside the regulation.
But I think over a period of time, we are very keen to move from here to get an NBFC license, to get a small bank license, and go that route and become whether you call it a neobank or whether you call it a normal bank. But we are very keen to sort of over the next 5-6 years move towards that.
Okay. So I have a question from students, more from probably the career perspective. Many students are very curious to know that your exposure has been in FMCG, and the transition into fintech would have required a lot of perhaps new learnings or again a disruption in your own thinking. And so they are quite curious to know how you make that transition and how you manage it.
Yeah, so I think this is my second transition like this. When I did consumer for Sanjiv, I did not know consumer before that. I used to lead clean tech and power for McKinsey. I think moving from there to consumer was actually a bigger shift than moving from there to a fintech business. But this is closer to my home ground of FMCG, right? Because my life here is all around the merchant. My life in FMCG was all around the merchant, right? So what is more important in this transition and where I add value is I hopefully understand better than most people on how a merchant thinks, right? So because I've dealt with him for 4 years, I've gone shop to shop to sell my like snacks, and I know how little money he has, right? So, but I think coming to the broader question, I think a lot of jobs these days, it's helpful to know the industry, but I think a lot of jobs these days require a few things. They require just your ability to understand problems quickly and sort of get to the root cause. And I think that hopefully B school and your past education has enabled you well for. I don't really need to necessarily know how the nitty-gritties of RBI work, how the banking system works, right? What is my business? My business is very simple. Take money from merchants and give money loans to merchants, right? So I have to really figure out which merchant can give me a deposit, which merchant needs a loan, right? That doesn't require me to understand fintech. That requires me to be able to understand the merchant transaction behavior and predict from there whether this is a likely merchant to give me a deposit or this is a likely merchant to take a loan from me. I need to like eventually all businesses are geared towards month-on-month growth. So I need to like look at where this month's growth will come from, which pockets I'm sort of not doing well in, and can I like do something, whether in my marketing or whether in my merchant outreach or in my product proposition, to make that segment work, right? Again, this thinking is not very different whether I do it in FMCG or I do it in fintech or I do it in an industrial chemical setup, right? So I think a lot of the core tenets of what we learn in B school, a lot of them, by the way, I'll tell you, you'll have to unlearn when you get into the corporate job, but a lot of them will hold you well in terms of just your sheer ability to do problem solving, to communicate effectively, to do prioritization, to do pros and cons of a potential solution, right? So, and that doesn't change industry by industry. So I think if you have a favorite industry you want to work for, of course, feel free to go for it. But don't be, I have never been so stuck on which industry I work in. I look at the problem I will get to solve. And if that problem is exciting enough, and if that problem is big enough, like solving for credit for merchants is a big problem, right? And that's what excited me. Otherwise, I would argue, why would I move industries and do a financial services stint now? But if the problem which you are getting to solve is exciting enough, actually industry doesn't matter, because most jobs require very common problem solving skills and communication skills, and rest you can probably learn on the job.
Okay. So here is another very specific question for BharatPe. With a huge merchant base, are you looking at providing ledger solutions like Khata Book to ease the accounting work of the merchants?
So we do. We've recently launched our version of Khata, which is for us just a feature, right? It's a feature which a merchant wants to use, he can use it. If he doesn't want to use, of course, I don't want him to having to deal with two apps, right? So if he is wanting to use a ledger type feature, he can do it in the BharatPe app itself. But I don't believe it's a huge use case, because a lot of the transactions still happen on cash, and you know how transactions in a small store happen, right? There are 15 people standing in line, and someone is paying 15 rupees, someone is paying 30 rupees, and the merchant is paying back cash. You don't expect a merchant to, after every transaction, open the app and like sort of put the entry in. It is relevant for some of the large merchants who have like a mobile phone sales guy selling a 30,000 rupee phone, but probably doing only 20 transactions a day. He can use a solution like this. But a large population of the Kirana store network will never use this product, right? So therefore, I offer it as a service. I don't ever intend to monetize it. A lot of people think they can monetize it to do lending, which I think is not possible, right? Imagine I saying that Ashmita owes me like 2 crore rupees on the app today, and tomorrow saying Ashmita paid me 2 crores. Will I go back as a service provider to lend you 2 crores on the basis of this entry? I will not, right? So a lot of people who think a ledger type solution can be used to do lending, unless they do something very different, I think they're being very naive about it, because giving money out to lend is very, very easy. Collecting it back is the tougher part. And if someone has to cheat you, this is sort of the easiest way they can cheat you, right? But as a service, it's useful for some merchants. I understand that, and probably relevant for 10% of my merchant base. And therefore, I do offer, if you ever open up a BharatPe app, even it's a merchant app, but you can still download it. You will see a product like Khata there, where roughly, I think, if I believe, 1 to 2 lakh of my merchants out of the 60 lakh merchants do use the product.
Okay. So here is another question. This is more the digital gold. You spoke about digital gold. I have to confess that I have personally a little bit of skepticism about this Indian and their relationship with gold, and their comfort with digital gold, and their ability to use digital gold in lieu of gold. I'm quite skeptical. I may be completely wrong, but here is a question also. Recently, BharatPe has launched the digital offering. We have seen Paytm provide the same offerings. What is the difference between your and Paytm's offering? But let me add my own question also. What do you really see as a future? Do you see this digital gold spin-off lendings really picking up? Given the Indian sentiment for gold, what do you?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. So it's a fair question, right? So there are two types of consumptions for gold globally, right? One is an investment. One is I want to keep gold, right? And India, I want to keep gold is a much bigger market than I want to use gold as an investment.
No, and most of us buy it as an investment and then choose to keep it.
Yeah, exactly. So even if I'm buying it as an investment, when it is time to actually cash the investment and sell it, I become sentimental about no, yaar, gold nahi bechte, right? It's and all of that, right? So therefore, when we launched digital gold, we were not sure how well this will pick up, because as a concept, it is only for guys who are very clear that this is an investment for them, and this is not really like gold accumulation. We do offer a option of like converting this digital gold into real gold and getting it delivered in the form of coins, in the form of bricks, no matter how we want to keep it. We want to shy away from making ornaments out of it, because that's actually where value gets destroyed, right? Because you spend making charges on both sides and you never get 100% money back. So our digital gold offering is very simple. You buy digital gold. If you want to keep it in the digital form, great, because it's easy to store, convenient, it can't get lost, etc. If you want to convert it into physical gold and get it delivered to your house, you just press a button and we will get it delivered to you, right? So whether this will and by the way, to the question on how different it is from Paytm, it is not very different. It's exactly the, like, leave aside small nuances, it's by and large a similar offering, right? So and I've never said that whatever Paytm does is wrong. so I have no harm in like offering the same solution as they are offering. Both of us are doing the same thing. We are basically saying we have to offer our merchants every convenience we can, right? So this is just one more convenience, right? Paytm can also offer a khata type stuff to their merchant. Having said that, the TG is slightly different, right? So the target group for Paytm is actually a consumer. 90% of the gold bought on Paytm is by individuals like you and me, whereas 95% of the gold bought on my platform, if not 100%, is actually gold bought by merchants, right? So we have a merchant-focused offering, and therefore how we sell it, how we communicate it, the offer to convert it into physical gold, etc., is very thought through in the context of a merchant being the consumer, versus Paytm has a very different consumer set. But commercially, the offer is exactly the same. The way it is constructed is exactly the same. I think they also offer same gold 99.95, or maybe they offer 99.99, doesn't make too much of a difference. Offer the same rate, offer by and large at the same price, because gold is a very easy to figure out price commodity. It's traded. I think for us, the next step from here is to then, once people have invested in digital gold, offer them loan based on that, right? So imagine a merchant who's taking a loan from me today at 2% a month. Tomorrow he has some excess cash, he can buy digital gold with it, and next time use that gold, which is anyway with me, to get a loan at like 1.25% a month, right? So this is sort of a long-term beneficial thing for him, and that's why we wanted to keep it, because we don't want our merchants to someday feel, yaar, ab to maine 3 loan le liye 2% pe, now I can get a loan from someone else at 1.5%. I want to create this suite of products where when he becomes credit worthy enough that I can offer him a lower rate of interest loan, I'm the one who's offering it versus someone else, right? So that's the whole thinking. By the way, the digital gold product is weirdly working very, very well, right? We are only 1 week into launching the product, and we are roughly selling 100 grams a day at the moment, which is not a earth-shattering number, but given we've spent 0 rupees on marketing it, we've not even done an in-app notification to our merchants yet, because we wanted to see if the product is working seamlessly before we sort of advertise it. The first 7 days are sort of breaking my myth that India will not buy digital gold.
Okay. So does the crash in gold price have something to do with this, or?
So I think recently a lot of the people globally and also in India have started feeling that gold is a good investment. I personally don't necessarily believe in that view as well, because I am educated enough to actually invest in stock markets after my own research and all of that, right? So for people who don't have time or the inclination to get into stock markets and take the risk associated with stock markets, I think gold is not a bad investment at all, right? So it is definitely better investment than putting money in your saving or current account, right? So I think, and there has been a lot written around this. There has been a lot of sort of during COVID, as the gold prices kept surging, a lot of interest in buying gold got created, and the recent downfall in gold prices, now for a lot of people it seems like yaar gold to बढ़ ही रहा था, this is like a short term crash, so it's a good time to invest, right? So whether gold will continue to rise or not, I don't know. If I knew, I would have been a billionaire by now, but I think it seems like people are taking the current crash as a short to medium term thing and thinking this is a good investment time.
True. So see, there's quite a bit of interest from a lot of students about what steps BharatPe is taking to onboard the rural customers. This is something that even I am very curious to understand.
Yeah.
So what's your customer mix like? Do you have a good presence in rural?
I would say, I think the simple answer is no. I should have a lot more presence than what I do today in rural areas. This is to do with multiple things. This is to do with access of technology, access of smartphones, access of banking. Like you need at least a bank to be on BharatPe, right? So you have to link some banking solution to this. And this is also to do with how historically we started, right? Like any new company which starts, or like many new companies which start, we started with a very urban focused approach, right? So for the first full year, we were only in 5 cities and we are only a 2.5-year-old company, right? So for the next full 1 year, we were only in the next 30 cities, right? So when I joined in August, we were in 32 cities, right? So it's a very urban network still. As I've come in, nothing to do with me joining it, bulk of it was already part of the thinking. We've sort of expanded the city network from 30 to 75 by end of December. And what we've done is what we call a do-it-yourself customer, DIY customer, where we're saying this is a city where we don't have presence in, but if you want a BharatPe solution, just download the app, send a message to us through the app, and we will courier the QR code to you. We will send the machine to you if that's relevant, and a printed like sticker which you can just place on your store, right? So we started doing this roughly 8-9 months back, and as I see now, my QR code is actually in 640 districts. Like the reason I say not much rural is because still 85% of my QRs are in 35 cities, right? So I have to sort of expand the rural reach, but we've started 7-8 months back because our job here is to provide transaction services. Our job here is to provide loans. If a merchant, whether he's in a small city, wants a QR, I will offer him the QR. If he is doing good transactions on the QR and on the back of that wants a loan, I will provide him. Right. So, and I've already started lending out outside the top 35 cities. We started roughly 6 months back on that journey and have expanded quite a lot. So much so in the last 2 months when I've sort of scaled the loan significantly, 50% of my loan now is outside the top 35 cities, right? Whatever is disbursed in the last 2 months. So we are quite aggressively looking to expand our reach outside the top 35 cities, but this will be done on the back of technology and the app and sort of courier services versus having our feet on the street everywhere, right? So, but the next 6 months we'll see this number go up drastically. I think roughly 15% of my QRs today are outside top 30 cities. Roughly 5% of my transactions are outside the top 30 cities. I think these numbers will sort of over the next 6 months go to 25-30%.
Okay. So I think I was given an indication of about an hour. Asmita, like I told you, I still have 1 million questions more from the students, and I have some million of my own. So I don't know how much more of your time we can take. Asmita, how are we going to?
Ma'am, I think we can take a couple of more questions.
So we'll have to ask him. So
yes,
we are about 2 minutes away from the deadline. So
I can have 15 more minutes if that's helpful.
Okay. That will partly help, yes. So there's this curiosity from student end. They say that, they would like to know a little bit more about you. What do you read? Because they find you very, very dynamic. I already told you you're young, so I think they resonate with that. They find you like quite young, and so they are very curious to know what Suhail is like, not what Mr. Sameer is like. So
Okay.
they want to know about that.
Quite simple at one level. I do three things beyond work. I play a lot of sports. I used to play Delhi under 17 cricket. I realized I'm not good enough to like really play cricket, so might as well study. But I still play a lot of sports. I run a fair bit. I think it allows me to sort of get back my focus a lot. I love travel. I travel. I do travel a lot. I still take, even in the startup world, I do take my 2 vacations a year, 2 weeks, no disturbance from work, and go to a new country ideally each time. And I have a very different working model. I will work 7 days a week, right? So I don't care about when I'm in the city. I don't like care about weekends. But when I'm on vacation, I don't want to be like sort of bothered, right? So there's a different way of, and lifestyle is a personal choice. Different things work for different people. For me, what works is if I'm in the city, I don't care. I can happily do 4 hours of work on a Sunday, right? But when I am like traveling, give me my space. And the third thing I do is I read a fair bit. Habit actually copied from my wife. She used to read a book a day throughout her life, at least for the all the time I have known her. So I read now quite a fair bit, not as well as her, but probably like 60, 70 books a year. And not much on business. I do read some autobiographies of people I really, really like. Like I would read about Nike, I will read about Adidas, I will read about Elon Musk, but I would also read autobiographies of sports people. I would like Lance Armstrong, Bolt, and all of that. And then a lot of historical fiction. Historical fiction is my favorite genre. I don't like to read business books. Most of them are very self-serving and give you a very narrow point of view of something which is done in hindsight, right? So in hindsight, it's very easy to say I took all the right calls, but while you're taking those calls, many of those are judgments, many of those are actually you had no other option but to do what you did. So I don't read a lot of books, but I do, not a lot of business books, but I do read a lot of historical fiction. I do read a lot of travel. I think allows me to sort of broaden my horizon and think of new things, understand new cultures, understand context of a lot of things, right? So that's my life: read, travel, and play.
So one very cliched question: that what is your advice for the budding managers from NITIE, especially? NITIE is, as you may be aware, engineer only kind of a school.
Yeah.
So I'm also quite a bit of a misfit there. You know, most of the time I'm
No.
very scared how I will teach these only engineers. So what's your advice for this engineer only?
No, I know NITIE well. I think we hired a couple of people in my FMCG business last year, if I'm not mistaken. No, I think I have a very simple advice. I think take your chances. I think there is no way to figure out what you do, whether it will be right or wrong. Only hindsight will tell you. Therefore, it is better to do stuff than not to do stuff. I've always believed that unless you take your chances, unless you ask for something, you won't get it, right? So worst case, by taking the chance and by asking for it, you will get it, not do a great job of it. But I don't want to sort of live with regrets and not try, right? And that was my conversation even while joining BharatPe, because a lot of friends told me it's a startup eventually, right? So I had to take like a huge salary cut to do this. And I had to go into a space which I didn't know, but it seemed such an exciting problem. And the team seemed so great. And like having built what they built in 2 years is sort of phenomenal. I just had to do it, right? So, and I've sort of lived with that mantra by and large all my life. Sometimes easy to do, sometimes tough to do. But if you're sort of honest with yourself and take your chances, I think every opportunity is a great learning opportunity, right? So take your chances, hope for the best, and like obviously give it your best. And in the longer scheme of things will work out.
Okay. So I think, Asmita, is there a formal vote of thanks?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So before that, then let me snatch my chance to thank you on behalf of NITIE, on my own behalf, for having taken out a beautiful Sunday afternoon, for having spent time talking to us, especially things I am very passionate about. So I've really had a exciting afternoon. I've not enjoyed myself like this in some time now. So I would really like to thank you. And I'm most certain that these students have taken away some very interesting, wonderful insights. And I'm going to ask you to come back to NITIE again and again for various things. But I think I will do a formal vote of thanks and then probably talk to you about that. So over to Asmita.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Sir, I would like to conclude the session by thanking Mr. Suhail Sameer, sir, for his valuable time. It was indeed a pleasure to have you for the Prerana Business Meet 2020 and listen to you share about your perspective and about your passion, what drives you to keep working and to keep pushing your limits. I would also like to take a moment and thank the entire NITIE fraternity, especially our director, sir, Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari, and Dean Student Affairs, Madam Professor Miss Hema Date, who have continuously helped us in making Avartan a success year on year. I would also like to thank Professor Ms. K. Sanjini for moderating the session in such a graceful manner. Finally, I would like to call upon the members of the organizing committee, the Prerana Management Group, and the faculty members to kindly switch on their cameras for a virtual photograph with the guest of honor. Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure having you on campus, sir.
My pleasure. Take care, guys. Thanks.